Hello friends, today I'm going to try and implement metrics for the azcagit project, and I'm going to try and send custom metrics to Azure. I've never done that before, and from what I can see, there's no SDK to do it, so we will have to implement some of the logic ourselves. I've created an issue as last time, and the initial metrics will be number of source apps, last run result, if it was successful or not, and perhaps even how long it takes to reconcile. I've prepared an environment, so we have a tenant, this time not multi-region, it's a single region this time, just in West Europe. And we have azcagit up and running. My understanding is that we should be able to see metrics from here, but I'm actually not sure, so we'll see how far we get. And we're going to follow the documentation from Microsoft just to see how it works, but from what I've read, it's quite simple. We grab a token and we should be able to use the SDK for that. And when we have the token should be specifically for monitoring, not azure.com. We should be able to create a struct in this format and push metrics, choose what namespace, what the metric name is, and I'm not actually sure what the dim names are, but I think we'll figure that out together. And then we need to push these metrics to the specified resource ID. And I've also brought up the Azure Go SDK, so we can use that as a reference for how they implement their clients, to make sure that we try to keep it as close as possible, because most likely they will implement it in the future, and would be easier to just use that then. But back to that later. So either I'll start implementing the logic and then just like a plain interface where we actually send metrics inside of the project, but not actually pushing it to Azure, or we just try and see if we're able to actually push it to Azure. And I think it would be easier to just see if we can build a small project or a small binary that pushes the same metric over and over, just to see if it's even possible. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's see. So we will create a temporary package we call metrics, and metrics will have a main function. I will just make sure that we can run it. Alright, let's rename that as well. we have something at least, and now we just need to authenticate ourselves. So let's start with that. So we will need to import identity, asset identity, and we will need to create a credential just to make sure that it works. Let's do it like this. I usually place most of the logic inside a run function because we can't do exit one. Exit one can cause other issues, like you won't understand defer. So the deferred functions wouldn't be run if we used it in here. So let's say we do, if we do exit one here, but we did defer here, defer wouldn't actually run if we do exit here. That means that if we do it inside of run, the defer would run. Let's just make sure it still works and no errors are returned. Oh, that's nice. I think we should start off with just creating some kind of client here. Let's see how they create their clients, because they have like their own runtime, which we should be able to use, and just make sure that we use the correct scope. So I'm going to create perhaps we shouldn't copy logs but metrics instead. Let's see, and make sure we import all those. Let's see, do we have options? Let's start as simple as we can. New apply. I'm not sure what module name is in this context. Perhaps it's a constant. Host. Module name, alright, oh, that's nice. Let's call that new custom metrics client. We'll call the module name custom metrics, and version it takes client options there. Let's just make that it's returning a metrics client, and we can call it custom metrics client. Custom metrics client. We'll create our own custom metrics client to begin with. Alright, we have a custom metrics client, and if I remember correctly, we need to configure the scopes, and I'm actually not sure if, let's see here. Doesn't look like we have any configuration options in there. Let's leave that nil and just see if we take the resource they are pointing to here. I'm actually not sure this will work, but let's try it. Usually the scopes contain a .default at the end, so we'll just see what happens. Alright, this means we have create a new client, and then we need to post something. Let's see how they usually do it. They usually do it a few different steps. Query resource. I'm going to look at the logs client as well, just to make sure that I understand how they usually do it. They do batch create request, batch create request. So you usually have 3 different ones. Alright, let's start there. So we need to define some kind of request, it seems like. So let's start with that. Custom metrics struct options. We'll skip that to begin with, and we will have custom metrics response as well. We'll skip options again. We'll take the body. Let's see. Result dot batch response on Marshall. Right. We'll see what happens. Host isn't defined here, but we should be able to define it. If we look here, it should be the region we're in. Something like that. And we need to set application JSON. Let's hope their runtime will do that for us. Alright, so let's see what happens here. Let's remove options. Host should perhaps be something we configure here. And we'll just start by doing what we actually have right now. So that should be West Europe, and the resource ID should be the resource ID of azcagit, and its resource ID is this one. should be able to see client.custom metrics endpoint. Join paths. Oh. And what do they actually call it? Let's just call it metric then. Custom metric. Alright, let's see what happens if we create this client. Let's just see what happens when we run it. Let's stop there. Alright, so we're receiving an unauthorized access token is intended for the wrong audience, monitoring.azure.com, including /. Alright. Monitoring.azure.com. They say with a slash at the end. We're not doing a slash at the end. Oh, that's interesting. Alright, let's try and figure this out. Alright, a new error. Now we get authorization failed, check access, denied authorization for scope, user, Microsoft metrics right, was not allowed, principal will be blacklisted. right. So it seems like we need, I thought it was owner over this, but let's see if we can grant these permissions to ourselves. Monitoring. Oh, right, let's just try monitoring metrics publisher. Alright, let's see if that helps anything. Alright, that's really good. So it seems like we're able to authenticate now. For some reason, if I just add another slash, that makes it work. I'm actually not sure what they do with it, but let's see. Bearer token policy station. Let's not dig too deep into that. So right now we are able to do something at least. Let's see if our friends over at SDK perhaps have some kind of model for this already. So they have metrics. But my understanding is we need something that contains time and data. Metrics. So they have a time series element, but that doesn't seem to be what I'm looking for. Right, let's just wing it. We'll implement this ourselves, so the custom metrics will be something like this. So we need time to be should be time, I think. JSON value should be time. Omit empty, perhaps, and if we omit empty, we should make the pointer. We should have data, which needs to contain the base data namespace. Alright, data contains another struct. Let's not make that type. Custom metrics data. That's a struct, and this struct contains base data. Let's do it like that. And JSON base data should be custom metrics base data, and it base data. Now we should create that one as well. And it should contain string, list of strings and series. Right, so let's do that. Metric string namespace string dim names. That's string. I'm not sure how I should do this, but let's do it like that to begin with. I can figure it out later. And series should be a pointer. It should be a custom metrics, and that. Right, we should create that one as well. And it should contain dim values. It should be a list of strings. It should contain min. Let's find out exactly how the scheme looks. They should have like an open API. Not here. I know I've seen it somewhere. Sorry for Azure custom metrics REST API. Custom metrics, Azure Monitor. I'm actually not sure where they place them. It should be somewhere like this. This isn't the right one. It should be in Monitor. Oh, it's Monitor, reference, metrics, data plane, create. Oh, that's the name we should use. Oh, data plane, create. Let's do that later. This is the right one. All right. Examples. We have lots of nice examples here as well. How do they translate number? It's most likely a float down. Dimension names, alright. Well, that was nice of us. Let's do some. this should now be dim values min max sum and count. So we should make these pointers, making sure they can be omitted, and custom metrics should be metric namespace dim names and service, right? Data oh, that's my bad. Alright, custom metric response. I have no idea what that is right now, but let's, yeah, let it be to begin with. Perhaps we should just do something like metrics, API failure, error. It should just return status code. Oh. Let's start with that. To build up something. Time dot now. Perhaps not. Oh, we need to convert it to a pointer, of course. To pointer. Pointer data should be custom metrics, and we should have base data, and we should have metric annual to pointer namespace to pointer. It's called a namespace, metric, namespace, dim names. I'm not sure what they should be, but let's call it and service. Dim values, I don't know, let's go back and see what that was. So dim values, what? Cow sold, August blue 5. I feel kind of stupid, but I actually don't understand this. So they have the namespace cows. So perhaps we should call the namespace azcagit. We should call the metric. I can't remember which ones we wanted. Number of source apps. Source apps. And we should take a look at, so perhaps Angus blue 5. Oh, dim names, breed, color, age, right. dimensions, of course. Region west to pointer West Europe. Alright, I'm doing that wrong. West Europe. Right, my bad. Min, let's call that 1. Max 1, 2. Some. I have no idea. Max. Let's give everything 1. Just to see if we're able to do anything at all. Right, to pointer. And that should just be int apps, right? Let's see what happens. Main cannot unmarshal string to go value type main custom. Right. So we actually get to do the request runtime marshal as. Should we try and just say like let me just debug print it here. We'll just return something empty here. Right, so we do get a result back, and the result is nothing at all. Let's see if anything at all happened. Custom domains, metrics, standard metric. Whoa, azcagit, source apps. Oh, that's awesome. We're able to send metrics to Azure. That's not too bad. But I'm still not sure exactly what we should do with like the different values. But let's not worry about that too much. So we're able to send a response. So we're able to send custom metrics, and the response we get is just nothing at all. So let's see if we can get that working then. That we received an error, and the error was cannot unmarshal string into go value. Oh, are they just sending back? Let's just try and print the response here once, just to see what it actually is. So we're sending that, but what is the actual response? Let's look at the body. We'll remove that one. Just see what happens. Okay, so the body we receive is just empty. So perhaps we actually shouldn't do anything with it. We should just be like, that's fine. Let's not do anything. So, and expected one. Yeah, let's just not do anything at all. That's just the easiest thing. Custom metric response. And we remove custom metric response, and that means we only have to return the error. And we return nil here. That's fine with me. That means that we shouldn't get response from there. And perhaps we should just create the custom metrics outside. Alright, let's see, refresh, we should be receiving the same thing. Min, max, let's send 5. Alright, well, that seems to work. So what should we do now? Well, we're able to send custom metrics to Azure. That's great. Now we want to do something with them. Well, the first thing I want to do is create I want to create the first package with the interface, just so we can get a feeling of how we're going to use this. So let's see, we want to create an type metrics interface, and I'm not sure, but let's say crate sounds like a good name, and we should usually take a context, and we should take some kind of metric. Let's call that let's call it crate counter, and we want to pass I can't remember how this is done in Prometheus, so I'm just doing something now. Right, and it will return, it can return an error. Well, that's something at least. And if we implement this, implement this interface, let's see, func new in mem metrics. That should return in mem metrics. Like that. But we should make sure that so right now we're not implementing the interface. Metrics undeclared name, right? Let's see what happens. And we'll do something like this. That's interesting because we're using the wrong one. All right. I'm just going to implement something that we can use in a test, so we can like see that we have a couple of that we receive something. So we have the in-memory metrics now, and we want to make sure that we trigger it somewhere. I think we want to trigger it inside of the reconciler, and the reconciler should most likely, let's see, we trigger it if we, perhaps we should trigger it like in here. Metrics client counter, and we'll do context, and we will do source. Something like that. Yeah. Then we need the metrics client. And we need to insert the metrics client. That one, and we client like that. Now we have the metrics client, and it wants it as a float. just my bad. Can we implement that like this? Can't remember if we had generic numbers. I think we do, but we need to import something. Golang generics number. Can't remember what. Sorry for the lightning. Comparable. Some int or floats. Number. Didn't they already have one like that? Oh, right. Let's do it like that. That doesn't work either. I don't know anything about generics, so I shouldn't even try this. Counter float 64. Counter int. Let's start with that and make it simple. Then we just implement float 64 and implement int. That's fine by me to begin with. And we do int. Right. What should we do if it fails here? Well, we should start with just printing the error. Alright, let's start with that. I don't want to fail just because metrics doesn't work. Not to start with. And we want to do, let's see here, I want to create the metrics client, new in-memory metrics, and we want client. Right. We want to do something to just verify that a metric is sent. So we want to make sure. I'm just going to find something that's like really easy. Secret failure, not secret, new web failure, did failure, delete failure. Let's see, times 2, times 1, and alright, this one is perhaps the simple one. Verify that metrics work. Okay, let's see. So we have one source app and that's it. We should be able to verify that, but we also want to verify that a metric has been sent. So let's just check on in-memory metrics. To begin with, we can just say we need to say something like that. This float 64 counter float 64 int counter int, and just to be nice for our tests, I'll just say, and that means m dot equals float 64 m dot int counter. Alright, and when we do this, we should say float counter equals and count. And this should say let's start with that, and let's see, we will also return this I'm just creating something that we can use inside of the tests to verify. We will most likely refactor this later, but that doesn't matter right now. Before we do anything else, we also want to make sure that we reset the client metrics client reset. So we should have actions here. Yeah, that's right. And require, let's see, metrics should be metrics client dot counter int stats, and require length receive metrics should be 1, require equal, and we expect 1 from receive metrics 0. So that's working, and just to make sure that it fails if we expect 0. Yeah, and if we add 2 of them, who 2, we should be seeing 2 of them as well. Yeah, of course. expected one. Alright, that's good. Run it again. Alright, that's good. I don't like this, but let's not get carried away with names and those kinds of things. Azure.go, let's implement the same interface. Metrics, and let's be smart about it. Let's steal what we did earlier. Yeah, everything. Right, so we have the custom metrics client. It returns custom metrics client. Custom metrics client should now also create request. Create request. Yeah, that's fine. And let's see. We'll not expose this one, but we will call this Azure metrics. Alright, that's good. And new Azure metrics, and new Azure metrics needs two different, needs counter and float int. Let's create them. Right, and if we'll go back to our main, we created this large metric. Not complete. Oh yeah, we need to make sure that we actually implement the interface as well. And it's happy. Let's see. Right, new custom metrics. Add that. Returns custom metrics and it should return just a custom metric, and you can do it like that. We don't have the pointer, so let's copy that as well. So I do want to pass something. We need to pass a lot more, but let's be smart about it. Or try to be. We want to pass the configuration so we can generate the custom metrics endpoints. We do have the location. We actually don't have the platform itself. Perhaps we should create something that's like this resource ID. Yeah, let's do that. Resource ID. I'm not sure that we actually validate that this is like fixed Azure location. Yeah. Let's do the same thing we did last time we were recording, and that was, let's see, we added to source app, did something like to lower, that's the one. Yeah, let's do something like that. Fixed Azure location. Or perhaps we should just do get endpoint or something like that. Well, let's begin with this. We know this one already. We don't know this one. We don't know this one. But let's try to do this this way. Alright, so we create that. And perhaps we should set region string. Same thing there. But we can take string, just replace that one with region. And let's see here. My best guess is we can like send whatever in there, but it should be a float. Yeah, it should be a float. So perhaps we should just say metric. That should be something like float 64. Right. perhaps we should call it metric name string. Just pass in metric name like that. Let's keep this namespace, it seems fine for now. Let's keep one dimension, and let's set min, max and sum to the same. I'm sure that's not correct, and let's set count to 1 all the time. We need to dig into what that actually means. We should now be able to do something like, when we receive a float, we should be able to do it the right way, like metric equals new custom metrics region, and the name. We should most likely pass something into this. Let's just say foobar to begin with, then count, and create metric. So just do it like this. And in this case, we'll need to do, how do we convert int to float? Can't remember. Yeah. Right, now let's do it. Metric name. Metric name. Counter, yeah, sure. Now we need to fix this. Let's fix that right away. And perhaps we shouldn't call it metrics. Perhaps we should call it just float64 int. Yeah, let's start with that. It seems easier. that's called int metric, yeah. Int metrics. All right, that's good. Now everything else fails. Reconcile fails because we need to pass it a name. Let's call that yeah, let's call that source apps. And this is now that. And we run the test again. All right. Now we also need to, oh yeah, sure, we need to create the metrics client. We need to pass the reconciler the metrics client like that. It's getting quite wide now. Right, we've done that. We also need to make sure that the service principal we create for azcagit actually has a role assignment that we need on the container app. Perhaps it would be fine to just say, can't remember the name of the role. It was monitoring metrics publisher. Let's give it that. Platform publisher, right? Alright, I just paused while building the Docker image, pushing it and updating the Terraform. So let's see if we have the new role assignment, which we do. It's awesome. Alright, let's see if we have a new version. We do. It seems to be green at least. So we've done something here. And the metric should now be 2 if I'm not mistaken. Source apps. And we're down to 2 now. That's awesome. So it seems like this works. We're able to send the first metric. This metric tells us how many source apps we have. And I think that should be enough for today. I will implement the other metrics and finish up the PR another day. And I don't really think anyone is interested in seeing me figuring out exactly how custom metrics should look and work and where I should put them in the code. So I don't think I will record that. Right. Thank you for today. Bye bye.